I need you to understand something before I tell you this story. When my wife put me on speakerphone that night to humiliate me in front of her friends, she thought she was ending our marriage in 13 seconds. What she actually did was activate an exit strategy one had been building for 11 months. But let me start from the beginning, because the setup makes the ending so much sweeter. It was a Tuesday evening, around 8:30. I was sitting at my desk in our home office, reviewing financial documents like I did most nights. My phone rang. Vanessa. I picked up and immediately heard laughter, clinking glasses, and that distinct buzz of an upscale restaurant in the background. Before I could even say hello, her voice came through, loud and theatrical, announcing that it was over, telling me not to call, not to text, just to move on. Then came the laughter. Her friends were cackling in the background like it was the funniest thing they had ever witnessed. She had put me on speakerphone. This was not a private conversation. This was a performance. She was ending our marriage as entertainment for her brunch crew. I sat there for a moment, listening to them laugh. One of her friends said something I could not quite make out, and they all exploded again. Vanessa was eating it up. I could picture her there, phone in the middle of the table, martini in hand, basking in the attention. This was her moment, her big scene. I took a breath and replied in the calmest voice I could manage, telling her I understood. Then I hung up. The line went dead. The laughter stopped, and I sat there in the silence of our house, staring at the phone in my hand. For a few seconds, I did not move. Then I opened the bottom drawer of my desk and pulled out a thick manila folder labeled Exit V.11. 11 months of preparation. 11 months of documentation, legal filings, financial restructuring, and contingency planning. I had been waiting for this moment. Not hoping for it, but preparing for it. Because I knew Vanessa. I knew how she operated. And I knew that eventually, she would do something exactly like this. Let me back up and explain who Vanessa was. On paper, she was a lifestyle influencer and brand ambassador. In reality, she was a professional performer who treated every moment of her life like content. Every dinner was a photo op. Every argument was material for a tearful storytime video. Our marriage was not a partnership. It was her stage, and I was a recurring background character. She had 28,000 followers on Instagram. She did sponsored posts for skincare brands and boutique fitness studios. She went to events, smiled for cameras, and made everything look effortless. But behind the scenes, I was the one paying for it all. The house, the car, the wardrobe, the trips, the ring lights, the photographer friends she hired for content days. I ran a mid-sized logistics consulting firm. I made good money. She made almost none. But that never stopped her from spending like we were both pulling six figures. We met 4 years ago at a charity gala. She was volunteering as an event coordinator, and I was there representing my company. She was charming, energetic, and incredibly beautiful. I was quiet, practical, and honestly a little lonely. We got married after a year of dating. For the first 18 months, things were fine. Not perfect, but fine. Then her Instagram started growing. Sponsorships came in. She quit her part-time job to focus on content creation full-time. And that is when everything shifted. Suddenly, our entire life had to be aesthetic. Our home had to be camera-ready at all times. Our vacations were not vacations, they were content trips. I could not even make breakfast without her staging it for a flat-lay photo. Every conversation became about engagement rates and algorithm changes. I was no longer her husband. I was her unpaid producer and financier. And here's the thing. I did not mind supporting her at first. I thought we were building something together. But over time, I realized she was not building anything. She was performing, and I was funding the show. The breaking point came about a year ago. We had an argument about money. I suggested we create a budget because her spending was getting out of control. She looked at me like I had just insulted her entire existence, telling me I did not understand what it takes to build a brand. Then she posted a vague story on Instagram about toxic partners who do not support your dreams. That night, I made a decision. I started documenting everything. Every expense, every asset, every login, every account. I consulted with a lawyer. I restructured our finances. I moved assets into a private family foundation I had created years earlier. I updated beneficiaries. I changed passwords. I transferred the title of our house into the foundation's name. And I did it all quietly, methodically, while she posted gym selfies and unboxing videos. The lawyer I worked with was someone I had known for years. When I first walked into his office and explained the situation, he did not even look surprised, telling me I was not the first guy to sit in that chair with this exact story. He helped me build the exit plan. Version 1, then version 2. By the time we hit version 11, it was bulletproof. The foundation was something I had set up long before I ever suspected our marriage was in trouble. It was called the August Foundation, named after my father. He was a single dad who raised me alone after my mom left when I was 6. He worked 2 jobs, never complained, and made sure I had everything I needed. He died of a heart attack when I was 23, and I always wanted to do something in his memory. The foundation was designed to help single fathers. Legal aid, housing assistance, childcare support. Things my dad never had access to. I funded it myself, and over the years, it grew. When I realized my marriage was circling the drain, I saw an opportunity. If Vanessa was going to blow up our life, I was going to make sure something good came out of it. The house I had purchased 5 years ago, before we even met, was now going to serve a real purpose. Now, sitting at my desk with the Exit V.11 folder open in front of me, I started making calls. First, I canceled the credit card she used. Then I called the property management company and had the locks changed on our house. I contacted our car insurance and removed her as a driver on the BMW lease. I called the subscription services, the gym membership, the cloud storage accounts, the meal prep delivery service she had been using for 2 years. One by one, I dismantled the infrastructure of her lifestyle. It took me about 90 minutes. By 10 p.m., Vanessa no longer had access to anything that was not directly in her name. And since almost nothing was in her name, that left her with almost nothing. I packed a bag. I took my laptop, some clothes, and a few personal items. I called my dog Chester, a 7-year-old golden retriever who had been my best friend long before Vanessa ever came into the picture. I loaded him into my car and scratched his head, telling him we were done there. He wagged his tail like he understood. Then I walked out of that house for the last time. As I drove away, I felt something I had not felt in years. Relief. No anger. No sadness. Just a calm, clear sense of relief. She thought she had embarrassed me in front of her friends. She thought she had taken control of the narrative. She thought she had won. But what she actually did was give me the green light I had been waiting for. The next morning, her mother was going to call her. And when she did, Vanessa was going to realize that the quiet man she had just humiliated on speakerphone had been 10 steps ahead of her the entire time. She wanted a scene. Instead, she was about to get a lesson in reading contracts. The next morning, I was sitting in my lawyer's office at 9 a.m. sharp. We had scheduled this meeting 3 weeks ago, contingent on Vanessa making the first move. And she had delivered exactly on schedule. My lawyer slid a stack of documents across the desk, pointing to where I needed to sign. I signed. Just like that, our house officially transferred into the August Foundation's ownership. The property was now a charitable asset dedicated to helping single fathers. Vanessa's name had never been on the title. She did not know that. She had never asked. She just assumed that because she lived there and decorated it and filmed content in every room, it was somehow hers. It was not. Within an hour, my lawyer's office issued a press release about a local entrepreneur donating a $1.3 million home to charities supporting single fathers. It went out to local news outlets, community blogs, and nonprofit networks. By noon, it was trending on local Twitter. By 2 p.m., 3 news stations had picked it up. The headline was perfect, calling it a man giving up his luxury home to help single dads in need. They ran photos of the house. They interviewed the foundation's director. They called me a quiet philanthropist. It was beautiful. Meanwhile, Vanessa was having a very different kind of morning. I know this because her mother called me at 10:15 screaming so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. But I am getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you what Vanessa's morning looked like, based on what I pieced together later. She woke up around 9, still riding high from the night before. She probably checked her phone, saw a few comments on her story, and felt like the main character. Then she went to grab coffee at her usual spot. She tried to pay with the credit card she always used. Declined. She tried another one. Declined. She probably laughed it off at first, thinking it was a fraud alert or a system glitch. Then she tried to check her bank account on her phone. Access denied. Password did not work. That is when the panic started. She rushed home. She tried to unlock the front door. Her key did not work. The locks had been changed overnight. She stood there on the porch, confused and furious, trying to call me. I did not answer. She called again. And again. I let every single call go to voicemail. Then her phone started blowing up with notifications. Friends were texting her. Her mom was calling. Her sister was sending screenshots. What screenshots? The press release. The news articles. The social media posts. Everyone in her circle had seen the headline about the house being donated to charity. And Vanessa's name was nowhere in the story. Her mom finally got through to her and absolutely lost it, screaming about what she had let me do to the house, asking if she was insane and if she had any idea what she just lost. Vanessa tried to explain that she broke up with me, that it was her decision, that she was in control. Her mom cut her off, yelling that she did not own that house, that she never did, that she had told her to read the paperwork when we got married. That was the moment Vanessa realized she had made a terrible mistake. She pulled up the news article on her phone and read it. Then she read it again. Then she started scrolling through the comments. People were calling me a hero. They were praising the foundation. And a few people, the ones who recognized her from Instagram, were starting to connect the dots. One comment questioned if that was the influencer girl's house. Another mentioned she had just posted a story about being single and thriving. Someone else replied about imagining dumping your husband and him donating your house to charity. That comment got 200 likes in an hour. Then someone screen recorded her speakerphone story from the night before and posted it side by side with the press release. The caption said she really thought she did something. It got 15,000 views in 3 hours. Vanessa's Instagram started getting flooded. People were posting the news article in her comments. They were tagging her in memes. One account made a video with her face photoshopped onto a crying emoji with text about trying to embarrass your husband, but him playing chess while you played checkers. It went viral. She started losing followers. Not a lot at first, but enough to notice. Then the brand started pulling back. But it got worse. Remember those voice messages she left me over the past year? The ones where she called me boring, useless, a wallet with no personality? I had saved all of them. I had backed them up. And I had shared them, anonymously, with a few key people in her professional circle. The charity board she volunteered with. The PR agency that repped her. The boutique fitness studio she partnered with. In one message, she had said that if I disappeared tomorrow, she would just be relieved, calling me a human ATM with zero charisma. In another, she called me a corporate robot who did not understand real creativity. These messages made their way to the right people. Suddenly, those organizations were seeing a very different side of Vanessa. The charity board quietly removed her from their website. The PR agency sent a brief email terminating their representation. The fitness studio posted a statement about parting ways with brand partners who did not align with their values. She was being systematically erased from every professional connection she had built. She tried to fight back. She called a lawyer and demanded to know how I could just take the house. The lawyer explained what I already knew. The house had been titled in the foundation's name for 8 months. The prenup she signed before we got married, the one she never actually read because she was too busy planning her wedding content, clearly outlined that all premarital assets and any property acquired through my business would remain mine. She had signed away her claim to everything without even realizing it. The lawyer told her she had no case whatsoever. She could try to sue, but she would lose and rack up legal fees she could not afford. She hung up and threw her phone across the room. By the end of the day, Vanessa had no access to money, no access to the house, no car, no sponsorships, and a social media presence that was actively turning against her. Her friends from the restaurant, the ones who laughed so hard the night before, were suddenly not answering her calls. Because nobody wants to be associated with someone who just became a public embarrassment. She had wanted a scene. She had wanted attention. She had wanted to be the star of her own breakup story. And she got it, just not the way she imagined. The headline was not about an influencer dumping her boring husband and thriving. It was about a woman losing everything after humiliating her husband on speakerphone. And the internet absolutely loved it. 3 days after the press release, Vanessa did something desperate. She showed up at the house. Not her house anymore, obviously, but she still thought of it that way. She had somehow gotten the new lockbox code, probably from a neighbor or a friend who had access. She walked in expecting to find her things, her furniture, her perfectly staged living room. Instead, she walked into an open house event. There were families touring the property. A foundation representative was showing people around, explaining how the space would be used for temporary housing and support services for single fathers in crisis. Parents and kids were walking through the kitchen where Vanessa used to film her morning routine videos. They were checking out the bedrooms where she used to do try-on hauls. Strangers were standing in her closet, talking about how much storage space there was. Vanessa froze in the doorway. One of the families noticed her and smiled politely, probably thinking she was another volunteer. The foundation rep walked over, recognized her immediately, and handed her an envelope, saying it was from me. Her name was Sophie. She was the assistant director of the August Foundation, someone I had worked with for years. Sophie did not smile. She did not offer sympathy. She just handed over the envelope and walked away. Vanessa opened it right there in the foyer. Inside was a printed photo. It was a screenshot from her Instagram story. The one she posted the night she dumped me on speakerphone. The photo of her and her friends laughing, drinks raised, with the caption about finally being free. Underneath the photo, I had written a single sentence in black ink about always reading the room and the contract. Vanessa stared at it. Her hands were shaking. Sophie came back and delivered something I had specifically asked her to say. She told Vanessa I was not angry, just done. Then Sophie walked away to continue the tour. Vanessa stood there for another minute, looking around at the house that used to be hers, watching strangers walk through rooms she had spent years curating for content. Then she left. She did not take anything. She did not make a scene. She just walked out and got into her sister's car because she did not even have a car anymore. Over the next 2 weeks, the rest of her world collapsed. The social media pile-on continued. People were making TikToks about her. Reddit threads were dissecting the whole situation. One post on a relationship advice forum got 50,000 upvotes with a title about a guy whose wife dumped him on speakerphone as a joke and him donating their house to charity the next day. The comments were brutal. Some people called her shallow. Others said she got what she deserved. A few tried to defend her, but they were drowned out. Her Instagram became a graveyard. She stopped posting. Her follower count dropped from 28,000 to 19,000 in 10 days. Brands that had been in talks with her ghosted completely. The influencer community, the same people who used to hype her up in comments, distanced themselves. Nobody wanted to be associated with the girl who became a cautionary tale. Her mom stopped speaking to her. Her sister let her crash on the couch, but made it clear it was temporary. Her friends from that restaurant night, the ones who thought the breakup call was hilarious, slowly stopped inviting her to things. Because here is the truth about people like Vanessa. When you build your entire identity on performance and perception, the second that perception shifts, you have nothing left. She was not a person to those people. She was a character. And the second her character stopped being fun, they moved on. Meanwhile, I was living in a quiet apartment downtown with Chester. No drama, no noise, no cameras. I worked during the day. I took Chester for walks in the evening. I had dinner with my brother on weekends. I started going to the gym again. I read books I had been meaning to read for years. I slept well for the first time in months. The foundation was thriving. Donations had tripled after the press coverage. We were able to help 4 families in the first month alone. My dad would have been proud. I never spoke to Vanessa again. I did not need to. There was nothing left to say. She had made her choice. She had chosen performance over partnership. She had chosen attention over respect. And when the performance ended, she had nothing left. I had tried to build something real with her. I had supported her, funded her dreams, and asked for nothing except basic respect in return. She could not even give me that. So I walked away. Not out of anger. Not out of revenge. Just out of exhaustion. Sometimes the loudest person in the room thinks they have all the power. But the quietest person in the room is the one who actually does. Vanessa wanted a scene. I gave her a lesson. And in the end, the only person left standing was the one who had been quietly preparing the whole time. What do you think about this story? Let me know in the comments. Drop a like, and don't forget to subscribe for more real-life stories.